Roberta is an elderly woman who lives in a friendly community in a lovely home all alone. Her husband died several years ago, they never had any children, and their friends live a few hours away, so she often sits on her front porch and watches the people pass by. Her favorite pastime is gardening, and this is what makes her happy. Her garden is the best garden on the whole block, so she often sees neighbors and pedestrians stopping in her garden. There have been kids in the past who have ruined her garden, and Roberta gets very upset about this because then she needs to go and fix what they have ruined. Even when Roberta's neighbors come by to ask her for gardening tips, Roberta responds with a very rude "no" and asks them to leave right away. Roberta thinks all of the people are jealous of her garden and they want to ruin it on her. One day, Roberta had very bad chest pains, so she had to call 911. An ambulance rushed her to the hospital and they told her she had a heart attack and needed to have surgery right away. Roberta was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Since Roberta was not home to tend to her garden, it quickly became full of weeds and very overgrown. While she was in the hospital, her old friends came by for a surprise visit. When her neighbors saw her friends ringing the doorbell, they came to report that Roberta was in the hospital. Roberta's friends and neighbors decided they would join together and try to get the garden looking like it did before Roberta's hospitalization. After they fixed the garden, they went to visit Roberta in the hospital. Roberta's neighbors and friends told her they fixed the garden and it looked beautiful once again. Roberta was so surprised and could not believe this, and she wondered why these people did such a nice deed for her when she has been so mean and rude to them in the past. That is when the light bulb went on in her mind. Roberta realized that there are nice and loving people left in the world, and not everybody is a bad or a jealous person. Roberta was able to make a quick recovery, and when she was strong enough to come home, she invited her friends in the neighborhood to come to her garden for a thank you party. Roberta told everyone they were invited into her garden whenever they wanted to come by. Roberta was no longer the mean, grouchy old lady on the block. Once she realized that there are nice people left in the world, Roberta became much more friendly and willing to help people to learn how to garden. Roberta held gardening lessons in her garden every Saturday morning. Each week, more and more people would show up for her lessons. Roberta's gardening lessons were so successful that more and more of the homes on the block had beautiful gardens. When it was time to give out the prize for the most beautiful garden on the block, the judges decided to award the house next to Roberta's due to all of the improvements that were made. Because Roberta was no longer a mean, grouchy lady, she was very happy for her neighbor to win this award. The local news heard of Roberta's inspiration and they came to interview her. Roberta loved helping people learn how to garden, and she transformed into a friendly, loving, and caring woman who people admired and looked up to for advice. She left her old, grumpy self in the shadows, and she remains to be a happy person from this day forward.